My family moved to that old, rambling house on Whispering Willow Lane when I was just 5. It was the kind of place with secrets hidden in the floorboards and whispers echoing from the attic. I was a lonely kid back then, desperate for a friend. And that's when I met him, Ethan. Ethan, with his mischievous grin and eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. He wasn't like the other kids. He never left my side. Not even when my parents were around. Ethan knew all my secrets, all my fears. He listened patiently to my childish woes and filled my days with laughter and games. But there was something off about Ethan, something that sent shivers down my spine, even as I reveled in his companionship. His touch was always cold, his voice a hushed whisper that seemed to come from the shadows themselves. One night, as I lay in bed, Ethan perched at the edge of my bed, his eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "Do you want to see something cool?" he whispered, his voice as soft as the rustling leaves outside my window. Intrigued, I nodded, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and unease. Ethan took my hand, his touch sending a jolt of icy fear through my veins. "Come on," he whispered, leading me through the darkened house. We walked, hand in cold hand, down the creaking hallway, the floorboards groaning under our feet. His grip tightened on mine as we reached the top of the stairs, his eyes fixed on the attic door at the end of the hall. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy that made it hard to breathe. The attic door creaked open as if beckoning us inside, revealing a cavernous space filled with dust-covered furniture and forgotten toys. Cobwebs clung to my face as I stepped inside, the air thick with the smell of decay and something else, something metallic. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened, his eyes wide with an emotion I couldn't decipher. He pulled me deeper into the attic, towards a shadowy corner where a large antique mirror stood, covered by a heavy, dust-laden sheet. "This is where we'll find it," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible above the pounding of my heart. He reached out, his pale hand hovering over the sheet, and slowly he pulled it away. The mirror reflected back not our images, but a swirling vortex of darkness, crackling with an unseen energy. I stumbled back, fear gripping me like a vice, but Ethan held me fast. Nighttime, the witching hour, when shadows dance and fears take flight. As a child, I was terrified of the dark. Every creak of the floorboard, every rustle of leaves outside my window sent shivers down my spine, but nothing terrified me more than my closet. It was a cavernous thing, its depths shrouded in darkness, hiding secrets I didn't dare uncover. My parents, bless their hearts, tried everything: night lights, bedtime stories, even leaving the closet door slightly open so I could see inside. But nothing worked. The fear remained, a knot of dread in the pit of my stomach every time the lights went out. One night, the fear that had haunted my childhood dreams became a terrifying reality. The night the closet door opened. I lay in bed, my eyes squeezed shut, desperately trying to will myself to sleep. The house was silent, except for the rhythmic ticking of my alarm clock and the gentle hum of the refrigerator downstairs. Then a sound pierced the stillness, sending a jolt of fear through my body, a slow, deliberate creak. My eyes flew open, my heart pounding against my ribs. The closet door, which I had made sure was firmly shut, was now open a crack, a sliver of darkness beckoning me from within. I held my breath, listening intently, but the sound wasn't repeated. Maybe it was just the house settling, I told myself, desperately clinging to a shred of rationality. But deep down, a primal fear whispered a different story. Something wasn't right. I could feel it in the stillness of the air, in the way the shadows seemed to deepen around the closet door. Summoning my courage, I threw back the covers and crept toward the closet, my bare feet silent on the cold wooden floor. As I reached the door, I could have sworn I saw something move in the darkness within. It was just a fleeting glimpse, a flicker of movement that vanished as quickly as it appeared, but it was enough to send a fresh wave of terror coursing through me. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob, my mind racing with images of the monsters I imagined lurking within. Taking a deep breath, I flung open the closet door, my heart pounding in my ears. At first there was nothing but the familiar jumble of clothes and toys illuminated by the faint glow of the nightlight. Then I saw them. 2 pinpoints of light glowing in the darkness at the very back of the closet. They were eyes, I realized, wide and unblinking, staring directly at me with an intensity that made my blood run cold. For a moment we were frozen, caught in a silent standoff, my fear mirroring the unknown intent in those glowing orbs. Then, with a speed that defied logic, whatever was hiding in my closet lunged. A blood-curdling scream escaped my lips as I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet and landing hard on the floor. The creature, if that's what it was, emerged from the closet, its form shifting and swirling in the dim light. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, a grotesque mockery of a child, with long, spindly limbs and a face contorted in a silent scream. Its eyes, those terrifying eyes, bored into me, filled with a hunger that chilled me to the bone. I scrambled back, desperate to escape, but the creature was upon me in an instant. Its cold, clammy hands closed around my throat, squeezing the air from my lungs. I thrashed and kicked, but it was no use. The creature was too strong. My vision blurred, black spots dancing before my eyes as I struggled for breath. Then, as suddenly as it began, the attack stopped. The creature vanished as if it had never been there at all. I lay on the floor, gasping for air, my body trembling uncontrollably. The closet door hung open, revealing nothing but the familiar emptiness within. To this day, I don't know what I saw that night. Was it a figment of my overactive imagination, fueled by childhood fears? Or was it something more sinister, something that lurks in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike? It was the summer I turned 10 and my family moved to a new town, a sleepy, sun-drenched town where the biggest worry seemed to be which flavour of ice cream to get from the local parlour. Except something felt off about this picture-perfect place, something lurking beneath the surface of normalcy, and nowhere was this unease more palpable than at the house at the end of our street. It stood there, brooding and dilapidated, like a forgotten relic from a darker time. The paint peeled from its wooden siding and the wraparound porch sagged under the weight of neglect. My parents, ever practical, dismissed it as an eyesore, a blight on the otherwise charming street. But I felt a chill crawl down my spine every time I looked at it, and it didn't help that the other kids in the neighborhood refused to go near it. Stay away from the old Blackwood place, they'd warn me, their faces pale and serious. It's haunted, you know. Haunted? The word hung in the air, sending shivers down my spine. I couldn't explain it, but I was drawn to that house, compelled to unravel the mystery that clung to it like cobwebs. Days turned into weeks, and my fascination with the Blackwood house only grew stronger. I'd spend hours peering at it from my bedroom window, my imagination running wild with stories of the people who might have lived there, the secrets those crumbling walls held. Then, one humid afternoon, with the sun a blazing orb in the sky, a group of older kids from the neighborhood challenged me to a dare. "Scared little man," sneered Mark, the tallest of the group, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "Bet you won't even step foot on the property." The others laughed, their faces a mixture of amusement and something else, something that looked suspiciously like fear. I knew it was a stupid dare, dangerous even, but something inside me, perhaps a potent cocktail of preteen bravado and burgeoning curiosity, wouldn't let me back down. So, ignoring the voice in my head screaming at me to turn back, I marched towards the house, each step heavy with a growing sense of dread. As I pushed open the rusted gate, a shriek pierced the air, the sound primal and filled with an unspeakable terror. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest, expecting to come face to face with some unspeakable horror, but there was nothing there. The other kids were gone, vanished as if they'd never been there at all. I stood there for a moment, my breath caught in my throat, the silence broken only by the creaking of the old house behind me. Hesitantly, I turned back to the house, my hand trembling as I reached for the tarnished doorknob. It was unlocked, with a groan that seemed to echo through the very foundation of the house. The door creaked open, revealing a cavernous hallway shrouded in shadows. The air inside was thick with the smell of dust and decay, and a chill ran down my spine as if I had stepped into the cold embrace of a tomb. I took a tentative step inside, my sneakers crunching on the debris-littered floorboards. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own breathing and the frantic thumping of my heart. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears as if the house itself was holding its breath, watching me. As my eyes adjusted to the gloom, I began to make out the remnants of furniture draped in dust covers, the faded grandeur of a bygone era. A cobweb-laden chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling, its crystals dull and lifeless. There was a feeling of sadness that permeated the air, a palpable weight of forgotten memories and untold stories. I felt a strange pull towards the back of the house, drawn by an unseen force. Each step I took seemed to echo with the whispers of the past, urging me forward, deeper into the heart of the mystery. The stairs to the attic were hidden behind a once grand, now moth-eaten velvet curtain. As I brushed past it, a cloud of dust erupted, momentarily choking me with the scent of decay. The steps creaked ominously under my weight, each one a protest against my intrusion. I reached the top of the stairs and found myself in a vast, dimly lit space. The air was thick with dust motes dancing in the single beam of sunlight that pierced through a crack in the boarded-up window. Cobwebs hung from every nook and cranny, and the floor was littered with discarded furniture, broken toys, and stacks of mildewed books. It was like stepping into a forgotten world, a time capsule of someone else's life. And that's when I saw her. Sitting on a dusty shelf amidst a collection of porcelain dolls was a doll unlike any other I had ever seen. It was a life-size doll dressed in a faded blue dress, her once bright blonde hair now brittle and dull. Her eyes, wide and vacant, stared straight ahead as if frozen in perpetual terror. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the doll's lifeless eyes followed my every move. As I drew closer, a cold wind seemed to sweep through the attic, stirring the dust and sending a shiver down my spine. That's when I noticed it, a small leather-bound diary tucked beneath the doll's arm. The diary was old and worn, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. The ink was faded, but I could still make out the elegant cursive script. It was a diary, a young girl's diary. Her name was Abigail Blackwood, and as I delved deeper into her words, a tragic story began to unfold. Abigail wrote of her loneliness, her only solace the company of her many dolls, especially the life-sized one she called Eliza. She confided in Eliza, sharing her hopes, her dreams, and her fears. But Abigail's entries took a dark turn as she described strange occurrences in the house, shadows moving in the night, whispers carried on the wind. She wrote of feeling watched, hunted, her fear palpable in the frantic scribbles that filled the pages. Then abruptly the entries stopped. The last page was torn, the final sentence unfinished, ending with the chilling words, "Eliza, she's..." I stared at the incomplete sentence, my heart pounding in my chest. What had happened to Abigail, and what did she mean about Eliza? A sudden noise from downstairs startled me. I slammed the diary shut, my heart racing. Someone was in the house. Panic surged through me. I had to get out of there. I stumbled back from the doll, its lifeless eyes seemingly burning into me. Racing to the attic door, I fumbled with the rusty latch, my hands shaking so badly I could barely move them. The sounds from downstairs were getting louder now, heavy footsteps, the sound of furniture being overturned. Someone or something was inside the house, and it was getting closer. I threw my weight against the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was jammed, stuck fast. Desperation clawed at me as I rattled the doorknob, but it was no use. I was trapped. The footsteps were getting closer now, coming up the stairs. I could hear the heavy breathing, the rasping gasps for air. My heart hammered against my ribs, each thump a drumbeat of terror. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. I was cornered, trapped in the attic of a haunted house with something sinister and unknown. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. A long, drawn-out moan echoed through the attic, sending chills down my spine. The doorknob rattled violently, the sound like a death knell to my ears. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself for the inevitable. But the door never opened. The footsteps retreated, fading into an unsettling silence. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in terror, before I finally dared to open my eyes. The house was silent, the only sound the creaking of the old structure settling around me. I managed to pry open the attic door and practically flew down the stairs, my heart still pounding in my chest. Bursting out of the house and into the warm sunshine, I ran all the way home, never looking back. I never went back to the Blackwood house, and neither did any of the other kids. The stories about the house and its ghostly inhabitants became the stuff of local legend, whispered in hushed tones around campfires and sleepovers. Years later, I learned that the Blackwood family had met a tragic end. A fire, they said, a terrible accident that claimed the lives of everyone inside. But I knew better. I had seen the diary, read Abigail's words, and I couldn't shake the feeling that their deaths were no accident, that something sinister had befallen them within those walls. To this day I can still see the vacant eyes of that life-size doll, feel the weight of its gaze upon me. And sometimes in the dead of night I hear the whisper of a name carried on the wind. Abigail, a chilling reminder of the house at the end of the street and the secrets it holds. What do you think happened to Abigail? Was it just a tragic accident, or was there something more sinister at play? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell for more chilling tales. Until next time, sleep tight, if you dare.